Hi, I'm Katie, and this is episode 65 of Ornamentations, which is going to be all about Sampler Symposium. I'll also be introducing you to the project I spoke about there. That's the Britomart Sampler, and I'm very excited to share it with you today. And I also have a lot of other stitching to share, updates on my other webs, some finishes. I also have a new release to announce, as well as the long overdue 7,000 subscriber giveaway. That'll be right at the very end, so stay tuned for that. I've got some great stuff to thank you for all of the time that you give to this channel, which I am very thankful for. I am coming to you a little later than planned. It's been a month since my last Flosstube, but oh, I was just wiped out after Sampler Symposium. The attic is such an amazing place, and their events are just spectacular. It was my privilege to attend, especially as a member of the faculty. But oh my goodness, it is so much stimulation between all of the excitement of the shop itself, all the models on display, all the great projects, the things to shop and purchase and look at, and then the excitement of 160 stitchers coming together is just so much stimulation. So I needed a hot minute to just come home, be very still and very quiet, and catch up on some of my work. I have been watching all of the fabulous Flosstubes recapping the event, and just thank you all for your kind words. They mean more than you know. But quick news item first, which is that we'll have the full details on this later in the episode. But this happy morning, or rather my version of this, the kits are finally ready, and they will be released on Tuesday, February 13 at 8:15 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Full details later in the episode. We've got fabulous, amazing silk packs with this one. You don't want to miss it. I mean, it's worth getting just for the spectacular array of thread in this project. And as I said, we'll have full details later in the episode, but I do want to talk about Sampler Symposium first. I am going to show the other designers' pieces because really it was my honor to be part of such a talented faculty. But if you'd like a full recap of the entire event, I'm kind of bringing up the rear here, and I won't go into details of the entire thing. Several Flosstubers have already shared all about it. So Brenda and Laura did a really comprehensive recap that I thought really expressed a lot of the joy of the event. Susan Stanley did an amazing interview with Jean Lee about her founding of the attic, about her taking over ownership of the attic, that you just have to see. That's on her channel. She also spoke with some other stitchers about their experiences at Symposium. And then I've also watched some great recaps of the events from the SABLE Stitchers. Roberta was there, Stitchstichbead, Audrey sat at my table, and then Katherine Adrian. Mrs. Flossy also did a joint Flosstube, like right after the event, with Contented Needleworker Kim and Dyann, the Woodpecker's daughter. They were all happy and peppy. I don't actually know how they filmed because I was completely melted into a puddle after the event for longer than I planned, given that my Flosstube is kind of overdue here. But anyways, let's take just a really quick look at the other designers' charts that were presented. I know you've seen them before, but I did want to just quickly share them. So on Friday night, we had Needlework Press, and Vicki and Megan presented a pair of sister samplers with a really fascinating story behind them. I can't wait to see how that story ends. They didn't tell us. And then a bookmark that is double-sided and pays tribute to both the sisters. I think this is a fabulous idea. I might not do this exact one, but I really like the concept. So I'm saving that idea up for another time because, look, yeah, you know me, I love books, so you gotta have plenty of bookmarks. Saturday morning, we had, Nicola was first. She presented two samplers, and those were Anne Ogston, which I'm sure you've seen all over Flosstube, and then and Morgan's. So lots of bright, happy colors, great for the coming of spring. And then Kathleen Littleton presented on Mary Wallace, an Irish sampler. Sunday morning was Mary Cox, who did this fabulous Stitchers tray, which I don't have to show you because mine would not fit in my suitcase. It's being shipped to me separately. It's not here yet, but again, if you'd like to see that and hear more about the other designers' presentations and their projects, any of the wonderful recaps I just mentioned, and which I'll link in the description, will tell you all about it. It was an amazing event. Jean is like nobody else. She's amazing, and she puts on just the most fabulous events. I can't tell you how honored I am to have been asked to speak. I myself was on Saturday afternoon after lunch, and I was accompanied by the Britomart casket. As you can see here, we're in a slightly different configuration today so that she can, hang out with me while I tell you about her companion piece. The Britomart casket is really kind of part and parcel of the whole just grouping that we're going to talk about. So what my talk focused on, however, wasn't actually the casket itself, but the companion piece I am designing to go with it, and that is the Britomart Sampler. This is still a work in progress, but I was thankfully able to get a good amount done before Sampler Symposium to have something to show. I wasn't sure I would get there, but I did, thank goodness. And this is the current status of the Britomart Sampler. It is an original that is heavily inspired by different 17th century band samplers. So right now I'm at a little under 40% of the total length, and then this is going to be hem stitched and when it's finished and rolled up and stored in the Britomart casket, the companion piece to the sampler. Really the thing that inspired it. I wanted to have a full needlework suite the way that so many 17th century schoolgirls did, and I just admire that period so much. So I'm gonna just kind of wave this around a little bit so that you can, I hope, get a little bit of an experience of the amazing shine of these silks. That's going to be very, very difficult to show on camera. It has a flattening effect, not just of the stitches themselves, but of all the light that reflects off them. So these are filament silks. There's a mixture of Soie Gobelins and Soie de Paris, and they just kick off so much light. It's absolutely extraordinary. It's not an effect you can get with any other thread. So I've got this fabulous, very vibrant, but also contained palette going on of filament silks. I'll show you the threads in just a second. And it's on 40 count legacy linen Piccadilly, which is actually a very, very special linen, quite close to my heart. And the reason Piccadilly is special is that this is the closest modern analog to dew bleached linen, which was the color of white linen before the advent of modern commercial bleach. This was as white as linen got, which is quite white, as you can see, but it's nothing close to a true optic white. And what it does to these colors is just absolutely extraordinary. It makes them sing, it makes them shine, it brings out the absolute best in them. And that was something that a lot of people who saw this piece in person at Symposium really remarked upon, what the linen did for this piece and these colors. And then this is the array of threads in Gobelins. I'm also using Paris. Not all of those colors are in yet. I have commissioned threads to be dyed specifically for this piece so that we can just go the whole range, have everything that I dream of available to use on this very special piece. And so this is just, oh, gorgeous, gorgeous. I love these colors. I want to eat them. They're like candy. They are just absolutely glorious. However, because some of those are still being dyed, specifically the green Soie de Paris, that explains all the empty outlines here. That is going to get filled in by full color, so I just mocked that up temporarily in goblins, so you can see what adding that richer, darker green is going to do to this piece. So that will go here as well. So following 17th century band sampler tradition, the Britomart Sampler is fully reversible, although I would note you don't have to stitch it reversibly. That is completely optional. So this is the front, as we've just seen, and then this is the back. Pretty close. And this is actually my first time stitching reversibly. It's slower, but once you get into the mindset, I think, you know, it's nothing crazy, although you really don't have to stitch this thing reversibly. So as we go on and I progress this with this piece, we are going to be talking more about the details of this sampler and the inspiration for this piece. It is charted stitching, and the Britomart Sampler is going to be a chart that is in general release. If this is of interest to you and you'd like to stitch it, you're absolutely going to have the chance. So I'll be offering a chart, a kit, and a class if you'd also like full instruction in the different techniques here. I haven't used that many so far, but I am going to kind of expand into more as we progress down the sampler. I think this is going to be available later in 2024, but because I'm still stitching and silks are still being dyed for this project, I don't actually have an ATA on the release. However, I have opened an interest list to, oh, see, I think that kind of shows the shine a little better. It is just, oh, it's so shiny, it's alive, it's beautiful. I have opened an interest list to help me get an idea of the numbers. That's been really helpful to me with the other projects that I've done this for. So thank you for signing up if you've registered your interest in any of my projects. That's a big help to me. Please, I will link the interest list for the Britomart Sampler in the description. Please sign up only if you want a kit or a class. The chart is going to be in general release. That's not affected. What I really need to get a feel for is how many people are going to want fully kitted Britomart samplers. So this is the Britomart Sampler, which we will be seeing again regularly now that it's made its debut at Symposium, and I'm very excited to share my progress on it with you regularly as I continue to work through the bands. It's also been a really interesting creative journey for me, and I think we'll talk some more about that too in future episodes, because I am really loving this idea of a sampler that's been designed to specifically accompany a casket finish. I've actually already started thinking about what a piece would look like to go inside my current casket project. That doesn't even have a single completed panel yet, and I'm not going to be able to return to this stitching anytime soon, but that casket, which we saw several episodes ago, the last time I had progress on it, excuse me, is inspired by a mix of amateur and professional pieces from the 17th century. It shows a mix of English and Flemish design. So I was actually thinking a sampler that mixes 17th century English and Flemish sampler influences might be really cool and very fitting with that particular casket. Of course, I say that and I haven't even finished stitching the Britomart Sampler, let alone casket number 3. So big dreams and a lot of talk, but it's been a lot of fun. I'm really enjoying this. So I don't think the Britomart Sampler will be my last sampler design. But getting back to Sampler Symposium, on Saturday evening, as I'm sure many of you have heard, we had show and share, which I think is just such a highlight of these events because you get to see such a wonderful range of pieces on display. I love it so much because it's an opportunity to engage with such a range of stitching, a lot of which are things I might not necessarily choose to stitch myself, just because there are only so many hours in a day. You can't stitch everything, but getting to see it and all the choices that people make in their own stitching are just fabulous. I wish I had taken photos, but at that point, after having presented myself that afternoon, I was pretty exhausted, so I was just walking around glassy-eyed, enjoying all of the stitching. Grace, the Paisley Stitcher, who sat at my table and made these fabulous Stitchy Friendship bracelets, which she was giving out at the event. Of course, mine is the sparkliest one I could find. Brought 2 of her finishes, including her amazing Saxony Sampler from GGR. Speaking of, if you have been watching Grace's channel and you've enjoyed her forays into German samplers and the research behind them, you really want to watch Trisha of Thistle Thread's video on Nuremberg samplers. She also just put up a video showcasing her own stumpwork double casket finish, if the piece beside me is of any interest to you to all. So I'll link both of those videos in the description and highly recommend them both. But going back to show and share for a second, there was just so much to admire at this piece. I could go on about this all day, but I did want to talk about one of my particular favorites, which was an absolutely beautiful finish of the Old Scott, or what's an adaptation really, of the Old Scott by Hands Across the Sea Samplers. I have this chart, I love it. I haven't stitched it. I don't know if I ever will, but I'm certainly feeling very inspired after seeing this interpretation of it. I think this was done by @JaneSays8 on Instagram. I didn't take pictures, much less write anything down, but I'm pretty sure that was it. And she just did this amazing, her own take on it. She personalized it, and then she did this fabulous roof where she took those satin stitch lines, but she shaded them in these beautiful gradated pink to reds. It was spectacular. It also really reminded me of the work on one of my favorite samplers, Sophia Ellis from the Fitzwilliam Museum. It's on the cover of Sampled Live Samplers from the Fitzwilliam Museum. If you don't have this book, this is one of the great sampler books that's actually still in print and easy to obtain. So seriously, buy it. You will thank yourself for all the amazing eye candy that's in this piece, because the Fitzwilliam has a formidable sampler collection. So I was really moved by the interpretation of this piece. The use of color was spectacular, of satin stitch, the personalization, it was just gorgeous. So go and check it out. I wish I had asked her if I could share her photo. Didn't plan well enough, but it was just a beautiful, beautiful piece. I have admired this house so many times. It's actually shows up reasonably often in some Scottish samplers. We might talk a little more about that next week. Not next week, next Flosstube episode. But you know, it just, the show and share was wonderful because there was just so much inspiration and creativity and variety on display. I absolutely loved it. So, you know, it's one of the many amazing things of going to a retreat. Beyond the fellowship, the companionship of other stitchers, there's so much to love about these. My first organized retreat was summer school at the Attic in 2023, and now I'm wondering where retreats have been all my life, truly, because they are special. I also received an astonishing number of gifts at Sampler Symposium, which I'm just more touched by than I can possibly express. Thank you to everyone who gave me gifts. I won't be able to share them all just because this episode would go on forever, but I am going to share just a couple because I was just so touched by people's kindness and their generosity and their thoughtfulness. So a lot of floss stops and then little tags on gifts and cards were given out at the event. So one thing I did, which I think I'm going to continue to do in future, just as kind of like a memento of a place and a time, the people who was there, I put all of those on one large ring. I added a beautiful sampling of memories fob that was one of my table gifts from Ruth. I put them all together, and then this is now my Sampler Symposium 2024 ring, just kind of as a memento of a wonderful, wonderful weekend. And then, speaking of sampling of memories fobs, there was a little tin with needle minders for all of the different projects, and then a fob, which I'm sure you've seen before, Sampler Symposium 2024 on the back, but I wanted to point this out because that, please focus camera, right there in the middle is Britomart. How cool is that? I was just so moved and touched, so I have to find something very special to do with this. So yeah, Britomart, she's on the retreat. Keepsakes, and that was really cool for me. Teresa of Jersey Girl Stitch Co. was there, and she gave out pins to all of the attendees. You could choose your color, to the surprise of exactly no one. I chose green. Of course I chose green. And then Lisa Curtin made this beautiful little pin cushion for me that's been over decorated with my initial, with little charms. This is fabulous. That's gonna go in my stitchy tray. And then the last thing that I'm gonna share with you, this is just truly special because, oh, it's a reminder of the effect that we can have on other people and that they then have on us in return, and the wonderful community of stitchers and how Flosstube enables us to connect with each other. So a lot of you know that I have been making peyote stitch beaded fobs for my project bags embellished with crystals. They're inspired by the Fern Ridge collection fobs. So if you've looked at them before, you've wanted to know how to do it, I'm not gonna offer a kit or a tutorial, that's their method. But Fern Ridge Collections is what you're looking for. They offer kits with very comprehensive instructions. So one lovely stitcher, Mary, who I first met at summer school, had showed me then that she had taken my suggestion on that. She had learned the technique. She was starting to make all kinds of beaded fobs. Mary, I'm so sorry about the damage I've done to your wallet there. It's an expensive habit to get into. And then she was at Sampler Symposium, and she made me a beaded fob with cacti for Arizona, this beautiful sparkly green fringe, because sparkly green fringe, Katie. SS for Sampler Symposium. Sorry, this does not want to focus. What is with my camera today? And then 2024 to commemorate the event. And I was just so touched by this because, oh my God, this is so much. I never do patterns in my peyote stitch because it's such a pain. It's very detailed work. I mean, you're just following a chart, but I hate it. So I was just more moved than I can say, because, you know, anyone who makes things knows the time and the love that we put into the things that we make. So to make this and then to give it as a gift just touched me more than I can say. So that was just beautiful, and I have to find something appropriately special to put this on. This might actually go with the Britomart fob in terms of like super special stuff. So those were just a handful of my gifts. Thank you to everybody who spoke to me, who admired my work. I mean, it was a really, really special weekend, and I'm kind of lost for words in describing what it was like and what it meant. For that, I would really refer you to Brenda and Laura, because Brenda did a really good job of talking about just like the enveloping warmth and all the love of stitching and the community at these events, which is really what makes them so, so special. So I am going to save most of my haul for the next Flosstube episode because I think this is going to be a pretty long episode. I've got a fair amount to talk about today, and I mean, I have to have some content for next time. So most of my haul and what I got will be in the next episode, but I did want to share one thing with you because this picks up on Susan Stanley's most recent Flosstube episode. She had a really great discussion of scissors, different types, having different things for different tasks, how they handle, how they made, and scissors are some of the most important tools that we rely on as stitchers. So if you haven't seen it yet, I will link it, and I really recommend going and watching it because it's fascinating. It's also very useful. So like Susan, I also purchased the new Golden Forge scissors in cream. That was a less difficult decision for me than for Susan because yeah, a deep dark secret, I don't actually like red that much. I've got enough of that going on my head. Don't need it on my stuff. So I really actually love the cream. I think it just goes beautifully with the gold blades. But I wanted to pick up on the idea of forged blades. So these are drop forged, and if that's Greek to you, Susan explains all of the different types of blades really well in her Flosstube, and this is the only maker that I know of who still does drop forged blades, and there's a definite difference in how they handle. They're just better balanced in their cutting action. They also, critically for me, have very fine, very sharp pointed blades, and if you watched my How I Cross Stitch extra, where I gave you a look at some of my different scissors and talked about what I look for in that, precision and control in my cutting is my single most important criteria. So this is essential for me. So good cutting action and very sharp, very fine blades that will give you the control that you need in your cutting are just absolutely essential. But forged. The only other forged blades that I know of that were on the market were by the late Monsieur Rouleau. And there is a real difference in how those scissors handle, as I said. It's the feel. They're just really well balanced in the hand. So unfortunately, Monsieur Rouleau is no longer with us, and these are a fabulous, much more cost-effective option that also happens to be really pretty. I mean, so one of the things Susan talked about was having different scissors for different tasks, but I also just like to collect scissors. So if you're like me, great addition to the collection. And oh yeah, I am gonna get these engraved. So Kathy of Needle in a Haystack has started a scissors engraving service, and because that's not that far from me, she was busy at Symposium. I was like, yeah, I'll catch you the next time I'm out there. So I am gonna have these engraved with my initials, and I'll show you what that looks like once I make it out there and have those done. I'm such a sucker for a monogram. I just can't help myself. But since the remainder of my haul is going to be in the next episode, let's talk about my stitching and what I've been up to other than the Britomart Sampler, which admittedly was a great deal of my stitching in December. I set a pretty ambitious timetable on that one, and as a result, lots and lots of stress. However, I do have some finishes to show. The first is going to be one of the holiday kits for 2024, so I'm not going to release this conversion, but this is going to be a kit if you would like to stitch along. And this is the Prairie Schooler 2023 Santa. So this struck me as being the absolute perfect venue for some fabulous sparkle prim. So Laura, the Serial Starter, and I are doing a 12 by 12 of ornaments, one every month. This was my January pick. And I was behind on this, and then I saw their most recent Flosstube, and Laura was already done with her January, so I was like, oh gosh, I've really got to pick up the pace. So I went ahead and finished my little guy. Oh, isn't he great? So well, you've all heard, I hate stitching letters, so I took out the words snowy night, I replaced that with more snowflakes, and then I added some just glossy white sequins on top of a few of those as embellishments. They're not super sparkly, but as you can see, they just kind of catch the light and they're a gentle enhancement, which I think is just perfect. So I will include a few extra sequins in the kit so you can like really jazz this up if you would like to. I think that'd look great. I mean, now that I look at this, why did I waste perfectly good stays with the lantern? That should have been just all snowflakes and sequins. I also gave him a fabulous fluffy sparkly beard, which just gives texture. I love that little detail. That will be included in the kit as well, which will be linen, all threads, and embellishments used. So that's a coming kit for the holiday season, and that's my January 12 by 12 finish, my fabulous Sparkle Prim Prairie Schooler Santa. Our February 12 by 12 stitch, if you would like to join us, is going to be Not Forgotten Farm Holly Jolly. Laura and I are both stitching this. I think we'll have slightly different choices on thread and linen. So we'll have two different variations, and join the fun and stitch your own version to join with us on our February 12 by 12. I did also have a second ornament finish in January, and that was after, so 2 episodes ago, we looked at my big bodacious felt nutcracker, and that got me thinking of other characters from the nutcracker who might benefit from going a little bigger. And one character from the ballet that I felt like I've never really done justice to is the Sugar Plum Fairy. So I have 2 already on my tree, and I'm going to show you. This is a very old one. And there's a lot to love about this. If the design up here were a little less clumsy, I might be satisfied and leave it at that. So I actually individually cut and sewed down all those feathery bits, anchored them at the top with, yeah, those are beads, sequins on her skirt, and then her headdress is just a crystal sequin and another just feather floofing out at the top. So she's pretty fun, but as I got more into the kind of rifle inspired variations, I decided to do another Sugar Plum Fairy. This was some years ago, and this is version number 2. So as you can see, I've been drawn to this same shade of lilac-y lavender felt because I had so many embellishments that went with it. Beads, crystals, sequins, feathers, ribbon, all kinds of fabulous thing. And that's where my head was at with larger, more bodacious version number 3. However, so I cut everything out, I got stitching, and when it came down to brass tacks, all of those were just two-tonal. They were disappearing into the felt, and it looked, I mean, really the same as this. It wasn't an enhanced version of this. It was just a bigger version. So then I thought, okay, she needs contrast, and this is version number 3 of the Sugar Plum Fairy. So I've used the same tones of felt, but instead of going for purple embellishments, I've done AB crystals and then kind of like a rose gold bugle bead. So, you know, she's fun, but she still doesn't say, I have really achieved Sugar Plum Fairy status to me. I think it's the color. This is too washed out. She needs to be like a really rich mulberry purple. So at some point I'm going to have a 4th go at this topic. But you know what? In the meantime, more fun and sparkly stuff for my tree. Honestly, there's no losing with that. It's just fun. So did I achieve everything I hoped to? No. Am I gonna love putting this on my tree next year? Yes. So, you know, that was fun. So I do need to try this again, but with our rich, rich, rich purple, and then go super extra on the embellishments to really convey the magic that is the Sugar Plum Fairy. Anyways, so a lot of December, although you didn't see that on this channel at the time, was given over to my stitching on the Britomart Sampler, and as I said, I set a really ambitious timeline on that. So I was a little stressed out between the holidays, and trying to finish my presentation. I mean, you just can't let Jane down when she shows faith in you. So when I finally put my needle down and called time on the Britomart Sampler, I needed to just unwind and de-stress a little bit before heading off to Sampler Symposium. And I decided to do that with a new start, even though I've got all these projects going on. Apparently Laura and I have like just changed places. She's finishing things left, right, and center, and I've decided to just start things all over the place. So I decided to start my complimentary piece to my finish of Heartstring Samplery Baby It's Cold Outside, which is Not Forgotten Farm, Parson Brown. The conversion for this has been published. I'll link it in the description. So my idea was to stitch these two pieces as complementary objects that I could display together as part of my Christmas decorations. Didn't happen in time for Christmas, but I got a really brief start on this before I went to the symposium, and then when I came back I was just in the mood for some just very low-key stitching, so I got some more work in on this. This is on the new Legacy Linen Color 37 count Smoke Signal, which I thought would just coordinate really well. Like, oh, these are just gonna look great together. I can't wait until they're both finished. I can put them together in a tray and show them to you. But so I did all of my border and my letter stitching. I got my vegetables in before I put in that snowman, and then he's gonna get fully over embellished with sequins, because why not? This is actually already really, really sparkly, although not in a way that you can see, because I have used Bijou Copper Leaf for all of that linear border, and it is so sparkly. It just looks absolutely amazing. The kind of brownie tones of the linen just bring out the best in this, and it's just, oh, Bijou has a real glow to it. Unfortunately it never shows up on camera, but it's a great feature here. So this is the conversion as I've currently got it, with two shades for the snowman. I still need to add a red, maybe a gray and a black. So not quite finished, but I'll put what I've got, and then we'll look at this again when I finish it up. I have my snowman, I have my fabulous sequins. I can already see it in my head. It's going to look fabulous. My decorations might be down, but I haven't finished with my Christmas stitching. I really want to have these two done to go together, and I think that's going to look absolutely fabulous. The other piece I've been working on is the Christmas in July kit. That's Stacey Nash Wonderful Life Pin Keep Drum. I took this with me to Sampler Symposium, where I think I put in 1 row, 2 rows. Yeah, definitely not 3 rows. I got basically no stitching done the entire time I was there. I just talked. I talked for 5 days straight. I talked more in 5 days than I usually talk in 3 months, honestly. But I had a great time, so no harm, no foul, and I've been able to get lots done on this since I've been home. Actually, a lot of this I did before I left. So this is the status of Stacey Nash Wonderful Life Pin Keep Drum. As you can see, I've finished the entire top border. I started the text, and then I also did do what I was saying I would, and I put in silver sparkly sequins. They look amazing on the linen, which is Legacy Linen 38 count Himalayan Fog. Started with a little of the filler, and then so this I all did before I left. I wanted to have the house all teed up for lots of block stitching. Ha ha ha, jokes on me, I got no stitching done while I was gone, but like that was the thinking, you know, block, retreat stitching, that all. I did no stitching, none. So it was a good plan. It didn't really translate to any actual work done, but I have been working on that since I got back, and this is just going to look great. I've had some fun ideas for some finishing flourishes, so I'm gonna keep plugging away on this, and we will take a look in the next episode and see how it evolves. Oh, I love the silver. I'm gonna have to thank my mom again for coming up with that. That was her idea, and it just is absolutely perfect with this, because to make sure that the white really stood out, I used a slightly darker gray on my Prairie School Santa. That's Wayfarer's Cloak, which, as you can see, is just about one shade darker than the Himalayan Fog, and the white really pops on that. Wouldn't pop as much on the lighter gray. It does in a big block, but those individual stitches much less so. So the silver is just perfect. It's tonal, it's slightly sparkly. It goes so well with the whole feel of this. So I'm really looking forward to finishing this and showing you the little extras that I have been imagining for this piece. And then with that, let's talk this happy morning. Thank you guys for your patience. I know that this has been a long time coming, but the thread has all been dyed. It's in. I have made up all of the thread packs, and this is slated for release on Tuesday, February 13th, 8:15 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. So this kit is limited availability. I'm not going to be taking pre-orders on this one. It's only what I have in stock, and at that point the conversion will be retired and it won't be shared in future. The kit is going to include the linen in a very generous cut with substantial margins. As a sampler, you may want to work it in Q-snaps. People have different ideas about what they're comfortable with on margins in a piece this size. So you're going to get a nice big cut of the linen, which is 38 count legacy linen, Fuller's Teasel. All of the threads that I've used. So I've got thread packs kind of in 3 different color ideas. So we've got the supporting neutrals that really provide depth in the body to this piece. That fabulous range of greens that provides so much richness and livened up by that little touch of light blue, which you see here in the house. It just brightens it right up. It's the perfect counterweight to all that red. This is such a well-designed piece. I'm just full of admiration. And then the mega reds and pinks. This is Valentine's palette, by the way, very appropriate for the release date. And this is a selection that you can use on anything that calls for reds and pinks, because these all go beautifully together. It also includes a written guide to the conversion, but it does not include the chart, which you will have to provide, just to be totally clear about that. I know that it's been quite a wait for this. I think a few of you were despairing that I was ever actually planning on releasing the kits. The threads did have to be dyed for it, but truly, I promise you, it was worth the wait, because the way those reds and those greens interact with each other, then just kind of given depth and highlight by the other supporting colors, is just gorgeous. So I have made some changes, as we've discussed, to make this a heritage piece that honors my family farm. Tony the Pony comes from the Summer Salt Boxes chart. All of that's noted in conversion if you'd like to generally follow my changes to honor your own heritage, if that's applicable. But you would also have everything that you need to stitch it exactly as charted. It's not required that you honor my family farm in your own stitch of this happy morning. It's a very versatile conversion that will do whatever you need, basically. So this is gorgeous. Oh, this is also the debut of one of the new green goblins that I commissioned last year, that really rich green for the grass. There are 3 spools included in your kit, just to make sure that you absolutely do not run short. I thought 2 was just a little too tight. So you've got lots and lots and lots of that gorgeous green that just gives this piece so much light. Oh, I love it. 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 So I know that it's been a wait, and I thank you for your patience, but the release is finally here. Again, that's February 13th. at 8:15 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, and we'll be looking at this again on my next Flosstube. And that actually brings me to the conclusion of the framing saga with this, which is unfortunately not a particularly happy one. It turned out that there were glass shards stuck on my stitching inside the frame, and that they would not take that seriously. It took a lot of argument on my part to even get them to look. They kept insisting that it had to be dust, fluff, or maybe I had just left a little bit of thread on my piece. What was the big deal? Long story short, don't go to University Art in Palo Alto. If you're in the Bay Area, they are a nightmare. But it is no less beautiful for all the framing agita, and the really good news is that these absolutely spectacular threads are finally in. The kit will be available next time, and I know you are going to love stitching this piece because these beautiful silks, these vibrant colors, their glorious shine just bring so much joy to the stitching that I think you're really gonna love it. I know that I did. So that's this happy morning, and then the last thing I have today are the 7,000 subscriber giveaways, which are to thank you, my viewers, for all of the time that you give to this channel, which I'm so grateful for, and that enables me to share all of the things that I love between caskets and band samplers and huge amounts of vibrantly green grass and crystals and fobs, and you know, all of the many and varied fun things that we talk about here. So now I finally have the long overdue 7,000 subscriber giveaway, which is 7 different things. So the first, there will be 3 different winners, and these were my table gifts at Sampler Symposium. These are sets of stickers that I had made that show different motifs from my stitch of Modern Folk Embroidery AKGIT 1833, which I do hope to get back to soon because I really want that to be finished. So the keyword for this is stickers, and I will draw 3 winners if you'd like to add some beautiful Virlanda stitching to your book of days or anything else. The next one, following the Britomart theme for today, is another one of my Britomart notebooks, which are my table gifts from summer school. The keyword for this is notebook, and this shows the, what I might call the lead image from the Britomart casket, which was also on one of the Sampler Symposium gifts, the beautiful fob that I showed you earlier in the episode. So the keyword for this is notebook. That's number 4. And then the third one, fifth, we're at 5. 4 things so far. 5th is keyword chart. So the little berry thief strawberry, which is just adorable, from Scattered Seed Samplers, was one of our gifts at Sampler Symposium. I already had the chart. As you can see, I've got 2. And so I'm going to keep the one that was handed out from Symposium. This is my copy that I already had. I've been planning on stitching this for quite a while, and I haven't gotten around to it. Actually, thankfully, it's funny how things turn out, because Jean stitched this on the new 48 count legacy linen. It was passed around. I'll insert a photo here, and she decorated it with the strawberry pins that we got as another part of the retreat swag. So I am going to stitch mine on 48 count March paint, just like Jean did. I've already cut my little piece here. So I am going to give the second chart away to you, and the keyword for that is, oh no, the keyword for this is not chart. The keyword for this is berry. Sorry, I have another chart to give away and I'm apparently doing this out of order. So the keyword for this is berry. And then following that theme, as we'll see in the next episode when we talk about haul, I may have bought an entire yard of 48 count March paint just because I see that as being very, very useful. I love small stitching, but it kind of hits a sweet spot before you go all the way up to the 5363. I think this can, I can't wait to try this out. I'm just dying to. So I cut a nice big chunk out of my yard, and this is Legacy Linen 48 count March paint. It's quite a big piece, and so the keyword for that is linen. Give it a try, whether it's a sampler, whether it's Little Berry Thief, whatever. The color is just beautiful. I love it. It's washing out a great deal in strong light here, but oh, I just love it. So keyword linen. And then the last, and this one is actually keyword chart. This is Mary Hill 1854 by Needlework Press, which I bought at the attic as a giveaway to you all because I love this piece. It was either the model or the antique was on display at the attic. I'm pretty sure it was the model, but as I've said, I spent so much time talking and relatively little time actually engaging with all the wonders on display in the shop, so I can't actually swear to that, but it's fabulous. I love the animals, I love the flowers, this is a fabulous, fabulous piece. But I think just given all of the things I have lined up, I probably won't get to stitch it myself. So I thought this is a chance to share something that I really love and appreciate with you in the hopes that you'll do what I cannot and stitch it, because this is a great piece. It deserves to be stitched. So Mary Hill is keyword chart. So those are the 7,000 subscriber giveaways, and just to recap, chart is Mary Hill. Linen is the nice big cut of 48 count Legacy Linen March paint. There's another color, Bride Cake, which is a little lighter and whiter. This is the more rich off-white color. Berry is the Little Berry Thief Pinky. Notebook is the Britomart Notebook, and then stickers are the 3 sets of AKGIT stickers, for which there will be 3 winners. Quick reminder, don't say giveaway and just use the keyword in your comment to enter. I will be drawing the winners and announcing them in my next Flosstube. So for next time, we have the long overdue, I know, release of This Happy Morning. I also will have progress on my various whips, including Britomart. I need to get this back up on the scroll frame that I'm using and get back to work. I hope to have something to show you, as well as the other things we looked at today. And I don't know if I can find more than 24 hours in a day. Maybe I'll get back to AKGIT too. And then we'll also have my haul for the attic, which I'm really excited to share with you. There are some great things in there, as well as the 7,000 subscriber giveaway winners from today. So I will see you again actually in 2 weeks this time. Thank you for joining me today, and until then, happy stitching.